I get paid to come to a beautiful city like Rio. I'd like to reach out to the startup community and see if there's a way that I can help and meet the local startups, and we can maybe just talk about whatever you want to talk about. We can talk about what I teach or what we teach. We can talk about my experiences in Silicon Valley, and Ben Blank's got a lot of experience there as well, and also, what's needed to help grow a startup ecosystem is one of my passions. And so I do a lot of that in San Diego. And when I travel often, people think like, oh, everybody in the United States has got all this startup stuff figured out. And then everybody in the United States that's not in California goes, oh, California's got it all figured out. And if you live in California and you're outside of Silicon Valley, you pretty much go, no, only Silicon Valley's got it figured out. So that's a long way of saying that in San Diego, we face the same sort of startup ecosystem issues that you face right here. And so a lot of the things that I'm trying to work on to help the startup ecosystem might benefit you, and vice versa. I might be able to learn something from you guys too. But so I just did a talk earlier at Rafa's company. And the way I sort of started it out, I can start out here. It's basically, I teach this lean startup. So who's heard of lean startup besides my colleagues? Lean startup. What about customer development? Does that ring a bell? So back in the first startups that I was at, back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, the way you created a startup was you'd have this brilliant idea, right? You'd have some sort of epiphany, and you have this brilliant idea, and you'd write a business plan, and for some reason, you could actually go and bring it to these investor people, and you could convince them to give you millions of dollars to go implement your idea. That seems crazy today. As a matter of fact, it was crazy then, which is why it created this bubble that then burst. But so what you did with that $1 million is you would go and hire your engineers, and they would start building the product for 1 year or 2 years, and you would hire your field salespeople, because that was a lot of what we were building was business applications. So you'd hire all of the people that were going to sell this across the country. You'd hire your marketing team, you'd hire your marketing agency and your PR agency, and you would literally be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every month, and you have absolutely nothing to show for it other than an idea and sort of this idea that's being built. And 2 years would go by, and you would have this massive platform that now you were going to bring out to market, and you do this huge launch with all of this PR and press coverage in all of the magazines and the newspapers. And you'd sell a couple. You really would. You'd sell to the one of your investors' brother-in-law, and you would sell to your CEO's third cousin that he worked with 20 years ago or something. You would sell a handful of these, but really 99 out of 100 of these companies would fail. And if you think about it, that's incredible. The amount of money, not only money, resources, time, things like that, but it's the creativity, right? And it's the blood, sweat, and tears, and it's the inspiration. All of that going to waste. So why is that? Why did we do that at this crazy period of time? Probably didn't exist before it. Certainly hasn't existed afterwards. In Silicon Valley now, pretty much you cannot raise money on an idea. If you've got a couple of wins underneath your belt, maybe you can, but pretty much now you have to get out there and prove your business model, and this is a good thing. And the Lean Startup is actually part of that movement to make you have to go out and prove your business model. So after I left the last startup I was in, I started this marketing service where I was trying to convince people to use the rigor of engineering over on the sales and marketing side of the house. So engineers are developing code, they've got an idea, they develop code, it doesn't work, it's got bugs in it, so they iterate. They go back, they look at the code, they find the bottlenecks, release it again, they test it, doesn't work still. They do this until whatever it is they're trying to build works, right? So why don't we take those same principles and move them over to sales and marketing? So instead of knowing that we know what product should be built, and instead of pretending that we know how to market and we know how to sell to these businesses, why don't we go out there and test and iterate until we actually figure it out? That's what my marketing service was about. I tried to sell to startups and it completely failed. They didn't want to do it that way. They wanted to do it the old way. They wanted to play startup and launch these big products that nobody wanted. So, big dot-com crash, a couple of different financial crashes in the US. The money just wasn't available to do that anymore. And I was blogging about this stuff in 2008, 2009. Somebody said, oh, go read Steve Blank's 4 Steps to the Epiphany. He's already figured all this shit out. So that's what I did. Steve Blank figured it out, customer development. A series of lecture notes that he put into a book form. There was his thoughts around how his successful company that was built, but also he had looked and talked to other entrepreneurs whose companies had succeeded, and this was the pattern that he found, that if you went out and you proved it and validated it as you did it, rather than just believing what was between your ears, that's when you could have some successes. One of his proteges, Eric Ries, then wrote a book about it and how his experiences were implementing this, and that was the Lean Startup, and that's what kind of launched this whole movement. So 2010, I wrote the first book that talked about this stuff, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Customer Development. Eric Ries came out with his book a couple of years later. Then I came out with another book. Eric Ries wrote the foreword to that, The Lean Entrepreneur. Basically, I described Eric's book is the why. This is why we should be doing this. Mine was the how-to, diving into the details. Eric's book just transformed the industry. Not only startups, but he brought these concepts to mainstream. That's why large enterprises started to look at this stuff, and that's why the 4 of us are here in Rio, because we help companies apply this. These guys, all these guys have started their own companies, so they understand what failure looks like. They also have worked in large enterprises where they've applied these techniques, and they know how they can teach larger organizations to do innovation, similarly to how successful startups do innovation. So that's what sort of got us to this point. So clearly, I love lean startups, and I like to practice this stuff, and I like to talk to startups about it too, because I think we can learn new ways of figuring out how to bring new products to market, eliminating as much as possible the waste of time, money, resources, your own creativity, the relationship with your spouse, the relationship with your children, your friends, all of these things. So how can we build these startups in a way? So some of the core principles of Lean Startup, essentially what we're trying to do is, when you're doing a new startup, you think you know what you're doing, but you don't really. Until you have a transaction in the marketplace, until somebody has given you some sort of currency for the value that you're trying to create, you don't truly know. You think you know, you don't truly know. So that really means that your whole business model is on the unknown side of the ledger, right? So there's the known, these are things that we understand, and then there's the unknown side. Now you can look out into the market and you can see similar businesses. If you're finding a new coffee shop, you can actually go out and look and see, you know what, people will pay for coffee. So you can go ahead and put that on the known side. So you can look for analogs out in the marketplace where transactions have occurred and put those over on the known side. But what you're trying to discover is, what is the unknowns? And you need to be super self-aware and honest. What is over on the unknown side? So once you figured out what's on the unknown and what's on the known side, you get to execute. You can go look at best practices, and you can pretty much follow them. They don't always work anymore. You need to invent new best practices sometimes. There's new marketing channels, new distribution that you can discover, and that'll help you. But there's also a lot known over there. On the unknown side, you can't just execute where you're taking a shot in the dark. Maybe needle in a haystack, you'll get it right. Very rare. So what do we do on the unknown side? On the unknown side, our object is to search. The way we measure our search is through validated learning. So what have we learned? When you're looking at the unknown side, you're wasting time, energy, resources if you're not learning. If you're going to launch a coffee shop with a brand new business model, there's a bunch of things over there you need to learn to figure out whether people are going to operate within that business model, rather than just simply going, yep, it's going to work. I'm going to open up 12 stores that are all going to use this business model. No problem. There's things that you need to test before you start executing on them. So that's why we use this test word, because over on the unknown side, I've been talking too much the last couple of days, we're iterating as quickly as possible on experiments, purpose-driven experiments, in order to move from the unknown to the known. So what do experiments look like? These are hypothesis-driven business activities. if I build this functionality, my users will behave in ways Z. Build X, measure Z. You're putting a stake in the ground. I build a video sharing service. My functionality must be, you gotta be able to upload the video and you gotta be able to share it. My hypothesis is if I build that, my customers will log on 3 times a week, upload a video 1 time a week, share it out 5 times a week. Just a stake in the ground. Build it, release it to a subset of users, not the whole market. It's not a big launch. See what their behavior is. You measure against your benchmark. If your benchmark is wrong, there's only 3 things you can do. You can change the benchmark. Oh, they shared it only 2 times a week. That's still pretty good for now. Or they have the wrong market segment. They don't even watch videos. They didn't know how to upload the video. Or it could be that your product sucks, right? So you have to iterate on the product. Oh, the link broke when I was uploading the video. That's why I didn't get any engagement, right? So putting a stake in the ground with your hypothesis-driven statement enables you to take action against whatever the result was. As opposed to, you just said, I released this functionality and I got 100 hits on my website. It tells you nothing, except that maybe you have decent SEO. It tells you nothing about your progress in your business. So we're talking about doing this all through your business model. We're talking about doing this for your business, trying to figure out if you've even got a good idea, trying to figure out if you've got the right market segment, trying to figure out if you've built the right functionality, trying to figure out if your marketing strategy is correct, trying to figure out if you're selling for the right price. Every part of your business model can be subjected to hypothesis-driven experimentation in order to move from the unknown to the known. So what are some of these types of experiments? Early on, if you're just testing an idea, we're framing even your first customer conversations as an experiment. If I go out and I find 10 people who I think are in my market segment, and I ask them about the problems that they have in their daily life, they're going to tell me that they love lattes, but they're too expensive. And I'm going to go, okay, that's really cool because I think I can give them better coffee at a lower price, right? You're thinking that, you're not pitching it to them, you're trying to learn about the customer behavior that they're doing already that indicates to you that your idea might be a good idea. The second time out, you might give them a menu that shows your options. Hey, you get a latte and you get to name your own price, and you watch their reaction and you're trying to get an aha moment. They're going, are you freaking kidding me? And they're like, where is that place, right? So the second test might be that you're actually presenting them something and you're looking at their reaction. But the experiments also go deeper than that. There's a whole host of, in the lean startup movement, a whole host of validation tests. So one might be called, like the Mechanical Turk. Right, so the Mechanical Turk, back in the 1700s, was a machine that played chess against royalty, and it beat royalty's ass every time it kicked the king's butt in chess. And the people were going crazy. They're like, "How is this machine doing this? How is it beating? This is crazy." There was actually a little person inside this box who was playing chess, and he was a chess master. Right? It's called a Mechanical Turk. You can Google it. Well, so startup people sometimes use this to test their idea. So they'll put up a web page that says, listen, I need data on the last 10 customers that bought from my store. And people paid for it. And then you take that information and you go over to Mint or a credit card company, or you get this information and you compile a report and then you send it to them. It isn't technology, actually. It's a little man behind the screen that goes around and figures out the data and delivers it and sees if somebody will pay for it. That's the Mechanical Turk test. The other example is Zappos, right? So this stuff isn't actually new. It's been around forever. We just didn't have a way to talk about it. But so Zappos, the guy wants to see if people will buy shoes online. This is back in the late 90s. It's obvious now, it was not obvious then. People need to see if the shoes fit, if they look good, right? So this guy builds a website. He doesn't go and source shoes. He doesn't have an inventory of shoes. He walks down the street to a shoe store, takes pictures of shoes on the wall, goes back to his office, loads the shoes up onto his website. Somebody buys a pair of shoes. He walks back down to the store, buys the shoes, ships them to the customer, proving that people will buy shoes. right? So this is also how this guy in Southern California, he sold cars this way. Finally got the site launched after 90 days of working on it, calls up his developer, says, oh, how's it going? Oh, it's great, we sold 3 or 4 cars. Guy, turn it off, turn it off. He was losing thousands of dollars for each car he sold because he had to go to a lot, buy a car, and ship it to some customer. But he wants to prove the idea before he spends the time, money, resources, creativity, all of that stuff. He wants to test that before he goes to market with it. What are some other tests, Ben? Put you on the spot.
I like that one.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of other tests. You could do simple things
Imposter judo.
Right, go take a competitor's product out there and see it. Right, is that what the imposter judo is? Right, you can do like, go get a letter of intent. If you're trying to sell to a business, go pitch them the idea and just say, listen, we're about done. We're looking for our 10 first customers. We're gonna give them a 50% discount. You wanna sign this letter of intent? Anything to try to get people to buy, essentially, before you've completely built it.
Maybe somebody has an idea for a product.
Anybody got an idea for a product that they would like to have testing? No?
No startups here?
Yeah.
Digital menus for restaurants.
Digital menus for restaurants. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I would do is probably talk to restaurant owners just to see if digital menus, well, I've got actually, the digital menus, the problem would be is if they changed a lot. So which of the restaurants that actually have changing menus? Do you know?
More local, I don't know, between local and not local, like more franchise,
probably
bigger ones.
Those probably stay the same the most. My hypothesis, and I don't know this, ones that depend on fresh fish, because they might actually change based upon the market price of the fish. And the same thing with anybody else that's getting like locally, if that's popular in Rio, like in right, seasonal products. So in California, it's very hip right now to get the local seasonal, and so that would be an example where the menus change a lot. So if you have an electronic menu and you can go to places restaurants that have seasonal and the menu changes a lot, then those are the ones that you hope to get a strong indication that they might be able to save the labor, right? Or, having to write out the chalkboard every day because it changes. And then I would check with them and just say, hey, do you have this pain, right? If I wanted to run an experiment, how would you run an experiment, guys?
I would actually go to one of the restaurants who says they like, oh, that seems like an interesting idea. And I would say, okay, every day for the next month, I'm going to put your menu in a digital format. Even if you have to go, talk to the chef, write it down, manually type it into an HTML page, post it manually to the website or the iPad or whatever, however you're doing it, and you just sit there. Every time there's a change, they just call your name on the phone, and you just manually do it, right? And then you practice over and over and over, and at the end you say, okay, you have the digital menu, did that improve your restaurant? If the guy says, yes, that saved me lots of time and energy, this would be great to have a digital version, then you can go build it. But if he says, not so much, it was a little bit better, but not that great, then you can say, well, why not? And you say, what I really need is this other feature. And okay, spend the next week at the restaurant doing that feature. So you get to the point where they say, you can't leave. We love what you're doing. And you say, okay,
what also might happen if the guy goes, well, actually, I don't really care about the digital menu, but I really do need to figure out my margins because my stuff is changing all the time. So you might, just by having those conversations, you uncover like this other opportunity that you might end up thinking is a better opportunity. Yeah. Which is why we go out and talk to customers, because we think we know what their most pressing problem is, but it's only by going out and communicating with them that you discover, yeah, that's kind of cool, but God, if you could solve this one over here, that would be huge.
Yeah, the thing I think about is the fact that I hate reading the menu. Like, if I had the picture of the plate, like after the plate arrives on somebody else's table, it's like, oh, I picked that, So having a picture of it.
The problem with it's fine that you have that issue. The problem is that the restaurant owner, while he wants to make you happy, doesn't want to make you that happy, right? It really is going to still come down to his bottom line, right? But so you have to think about it from his or her perspective and try to figure out, is there a problem that they have that's solving, right? Yeah.
It's funny because I know a guy that tried that before, and he did exactly what he said. He went to the restaurant with the mock product, and the owner said, take this out of here because if I decided to take it to the customers and they decide to buy themselves and skip the waiter, the waiter is going to be upset because they won't get the 10%, which is part of their compensation.
Right.
So the guy said, okay, I don't want that,
Right.
but if you do a wine list where I can put the wines that are in promotion at the top, I can suggest better with the combination. So the product is more like a wine list, maybe with combination with the meal, than the menu itself.
Yeah, I guess where I was going with it was not necessarily to replace the waiters and waitresses, because I agree with you. I think that's a poor business model because I think customers actually enjoy that experience. But there's all sorts of ways to use a digital menu other than actually presenting it to as an iPad. You put the digital menu up here. You could actually physically print out the menu. So there's a company in San Diego that manages, craft brew is blowing up in the U.S. and San Diego is sort of one of the leading towns. And so what they do is they upload the beers. They update the menus, and they print them out. They're not like handing out but just by the printing costs and the labor of having to keep the craft brew menu current it's time consuming and costly. So just by using digital and having a way to automate the updating of the menu actually saves all sorts of, and the company's actually doing really well.
I think what's important about that is how specific the customer is.
Yes.
Right? So it was not, even in that case, it's not all restaurants, right? It's a very specific kind of restaurant, a bar that has a menu that's very dynamic, changes a lot. And not even all of those, just the ones that have brewery, very small, but that helps you go big. Sometimes entrepreneurs start too broad and they go all restaurants. No, there's maybe one or two niches that are very small.
Well, and since the craft brew industry then happens to be blowing up, it ends up being all of these other restaurants too. But you're exactly right. It's a well-defined, which is even why my first question was, actually, who has that pain from the way I was sort of understanding it? It's the guy that's menu changing. Anybody else have an idea? You want me to break it down, or have Ben break it down, or Aaron? What else can I answer for you? What were you hoping to hear from? Come on, you guys are here for a reason.
Do you have some tools like cloud computing that help us to the scalability of the business?
Discover the business?
The scalability.
Oh, the scalability of business.
Scalability of the business. So if you use it to prove some concepts easily, so do you recommend it?
I don't know what you're talking about. And I would
Amazon. AWS.
Anybody that tells you they can prove the scalability of a very specific business electronically, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Can you say it again? Sorry.
Why? If there's a tool out there that people are claiming will predict the scalability of a business, I don't believe it. Would Groupon have been scalable? It's amazing to me that they're like, what did they have? Salespeople in every city across the country in the U.S. Physical salespeople on the streets knocking on the doors of small businesses. I guarantee you every investor in the beginning said that was not scalable. Back in the 90s, it was very common that you had field salespeople. I don't understand suddenly nobody thinks that business is scalable if you have salespeople. There's a company I was helping out in Australia just a couple of months ago. He was actually selling to restaurants. And he was trying to sell to restaurants by using a Facebook page. So the restaurant's Facebook manager would be who interacted with the Facebook page. This was the hope. I'm a social media manager at a restaurant. I somehow get noticed that this software company is kind of reaching out to me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read all of their material and go take it to my boss and say, I don't really understand this. It's like this crazy software stuff, but you should go and buy it or you should go look at it. I mean, it was ridiculous. Talking about not scalable, stupid marketing practices are not scalable. And I was like, get on the phone. You got to call the restaurant owners. That's going to be scalable. Eventually, you can automate it over time. That's what becomes scalable. But it doesn't have to be scalable at first. I guess that's a... a short story long, right? But read Paul Graham. Don't worry about scalability at the beginning. Scalability comes from automating what you learn. And the best way to learn is actually to do it feet on the street, going and meeting people. On the phone is okay. You can learn how to market to those people over time. That's actually part of the process, is learning how to reach them, learn how to market them, lower your cost of marketing, lower your cost of acquisition, turn them into passionate customers so they have high lifetime value. But you don't worry about that from the get-go. From the get-go, it's, do I even have a good idea?
Which tools are the best ones in order to test the market? What can you tell us?
Feet, mouth. Those are your best tools.
Best tools.
Yep. Everybody wants to, like, engineers are ingenious. They build products so they don't have to actually talk to large customers. AskYourTargetMarket.com, UserTesting.com, VoiceOfSatisfaction.com. I mean, it's crazy. Anything we can do to actually not talk to live human beings. Best tools: feet, hands, mouth.
Market just changed so fast and took a lot.
What's that?
And market just changed so fast and a lot. So
Well, that's one of the problems, definitely. That's what the large enterprises are suffering with, right?
they cannot walk with the market. A couple of years ago, Curto was the best social network software. So
And then it changes,
yeah.
and then it's gone. Yep. No, I agree. So it's really, as you grow, you can start using other tools like survey tools and these other things to learn small changes that you need to make. But even in those instances, you should be talking to your customers in order to calibrate your surveys. You should be hearing from your customers on the street, on the phone, the same things that you're hearing in the survey, or one of those two things is messed up. If you rely only on the surveys, you're really taking a big chance. Even if you go out and talk to 10 customers, it's representing a larger market, right? So you're not worried about statistical significance. You're not after a bell curve, you're after the people that are your early adopters. You don't want, the second deviation of your early adopters. You want all of your early adopters. So this is not about statistical significance early on. It's only about statistical significance when you're trying to reach the whole market. And like Ben said, you got to start small to go big. Yeah.
Getting back a little bit, when you are talking about scalability, I own a software development company in Rio, and some of our new clients have problems in understanding about how they can start with many of these tasks doing manually. Right? Guilherme works with me, and he knows better than me about that because he is the guy that talks with the clients at first. Everything you said, I already know.
Yes.
The problem that the clients don't know about that.
Buy them a copy of Eric Reese's book.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm serious.
Let me take that one because I work for a large company and talk to them on economics and outcomes. So the cost to the organization to do it the other way is very expensive.
Yes, of course.
And the outcome is usually not good. So yes, we can build exactly what you want us to build for a lot of money, and we'll be happy to take your money. I will be happy to take your money. But the chances of us being correct are very low. We're just being honest. If the next guy who comes along, he has the same problem. If it's a different firm, it's the same problem. Or he can work in a different way at a much cheaper price, have a much higher rate of success.
Yeah, that's the way we try to sell, but
They still say no.
no, actually you have a lot of clients, so at least we are being successful in convince a lot of people, but not everyone. Okay.
Do you offer services to go and do the mechanical Turk type of test?
Not exactly yet, but we're looking ways to bring these services.
So offer it as a service, get good at it, but make sure you take the founder with you. Right? So you go like, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to pick you up, we're going to drive over to where your customers are, and the two of us are going to talk to them, and we're going to validate your idea first.
actually, the big problem is to convince the customer because they think that the problem of them is software.
Right.
And the problem of them isn't software. Software is automation of the problem. That's the problem.
You're making it worse.
And we say, actually, he works in the company that I always talked to
Okay.
before. So we sell software that the customers can do week a week and build the first steps, and they can do a lot of things without automation. But they think that putting on money and doing automation, they will sell. That's the problem. I would like to ask you guys, how do you do it? Because people know you, and it's in Brazil. I don't know how to translate this to English, but it's the site of house. I don't know. It's something I don't know. It's an expression that people now
People from inside do not have the answer.
Well,
I don't know.
next time we're in town,
When people come, they are.
next time we're in town, you can run a seminar, right? And we'll come by and we'll teach them, and you can charge them for it. We'll split the money, and you'll make a little money, and I'll make a little bit of money, and they'll go away, and they still won't believe us. But at least we'll make a little bit.
It's so hard because working as
Listen, the only clients that we work with in the enterprise are clients that already get it. Not even me. Not any of us are actually good at convincing people that they need to do it a different way. And why did the four of us understand it? We all failed. Failure is the best teacher. And so if you're talking to them, try to get them to tell you when they failed. When was their biggest failure? And maybe that's actually the way you lead it in. And buy them a copy of Eric Reese's book. And you can send them a copy of my book too. But,
If that doesn't work, just don't tell them you're doing it differently. Just say, yeah, okay, let's go, and then you do it experiments anyway. Just don't tell them.
yeah, say, listen, we can do it. Give them a price discount for doing it your way.
Actually, we just don't sell the other way.
Yeah, I guess usually people like you, they get frustrated over time because the products don't end up succeeding. And so all of your team, your engineers, are building the product, and yeah, they know they're getting paid for it, but the real win personally comes from, I built that product that is now kicking butt. How cool is that, right? I mean, for years, I could look at American Express and know every single time there was a secure message that you sent to American Express, yep, that was part of my product. And that's kind of cool, right? And so to work on all of these projects, and they're all just now, tombstones on the internet, right? They're still there. That's what's the crazy thing about the internet. Everybody's dead projects are still out there, right? Instead of the Wayback Machine, we need the Deadpool machine where we just list all of these dead startups. We're gonna conquer the world. Copyright 2009.
And how to bring this startup culture to the big companies?
It's very difficult. There's a handful of companies that are doing it well. Not very many. Intuit, where Ben and Aaron are from, but even that, they don't got it all figured out. But they do allow internal employees to act like startups.
I think the number one thing is similar to the client issue. There has to be a mandate for change. Somebody has to want to change, do something different. If you're in an environment, or you do work in a large corporate, so it can be frustrating because it was me. I used to be
It's a startup silo.
Yeah.
It's like something bigger.
Yeah, and so it's well, at least you have a silo, and you're not by yourself somewhere. The silo implies there's more than one person in it, right? So
it was built as a silo.
Yeah,
It's just me.
If it's just a solo, is different from silo. Right. So at least
One-man silo.
Yeah, exactly. If you have more than one, if it's you plus people, that's a first.
What I want to know is it a silo or a bomb shelter?
Yeah. But in seriousness, you can work in this new way, and when you start to show some success, and maybe you pick a project where it's a small scale project, but you can show success right away. You pick that as your team decides, maybe this isn't the biggest one, but it's visible and we can make an impact really quick with our tools and process. So let's apply the tools and process to the short project. We get a win. We'll like to say beat the drum, show people it worked, and then others, maybe you get one more team, so your silo is 2 silos. And then you try again and again, and some won't work, and then you just don't tell anybody. You sweep one to the rug, and you move to the next, and then eventually over time, you build enough credibility in the process that people start asking you, well, how, you seem to be very successful. What are you doing? My team is really taking 6 months. Your team did it in a week. And you say, well, if you asked, here's what I did, and they'll start to pull you into the organization. That's how it worked for Aaron and I at a big company. We were viewed as crazy people until it started to work, and then people started to come to see us, and we would give them a little bit, and they would pull us into the projects. And over time, I mean, it takes 4 years. The new way of working will be adopted, but mostly in projects that are innovative. And if your company doesn't have enough of those projects, you may have to switch companies.
Also, buy the CEO Eric Ries's book.
Yeah. Anonymously buy the book and send it to the CEO. I swear to God. Internal at our company, we have internal mail. It's free. You can stuff anything in an envelope and write the name, and it'll go to them.
So you sign it from the home itself.
You know what we would do? So I tell you a story. We sign from another executive. And we walk up to the stairs, put it in that mailbox, and send it to them. And they will open it because they think it's from somebody else. With a little sticky says, interesting, ... We just leave it. And then you can see it. You see it in the elevator 6 months. You say, hey, I read a book. And you go, oh, what?
You start seeing all the executives walking around with a lean startup.
You have, so in all seriousness, treat your company is the customer. Like a startup would treat the customer, you have to develop tricks and hacks and experiments on them, even though they're supposed to be on your side, right? So you have to hack the corporate culture and the leaders to get them to at least think, right? Maybe you still are stuck in the silo, but at least they're starting to think that way, and then over time you can slowly chip away. Corporations are really hard, but it's the same process.
Yeah, I had sometimes to defend my ideas as I was fighting with a huge monster. And the worst way is because usually they are old guys they used to do, I used to do that for 10 years already, so you are a 30 years old boy, how
what do you
teach
know?
me stuff? Who do you think you are? And this kind of stuff. So,
Well, you just say who was Mark Zuckerberg when he was 24?
I was telling him that I work at a newspaper, and the manager of the newspaper we were building a newspaper platform for pilots. And then he gets with a newspaper and says, oh, the platform must be like this, the newspaper itself.
Right.
It must be much better than this.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of things that you can point to that shows that the newspaper industry is dying. You may have heard of some of them. I don't know. Maybe not. But
maybe because all the money is going out the door.
Well, so the thing is that the way to do it, if you can, is to start bringing evidence of your idea, right?
Yes, that's the problem there, because the newspaper is getting always declining. So they want to find a way to get more customers online, users logging in and paying every month.
Right.
Even that is a much lower price, it's $1 for a month, and they used to pay $3 for a week for a newspaper.
Yeah, the rules are different.
Yeah, but
But do you have ideas?
Yeah, they have a lot of ideas to get these people for the website and for the web platform, but they doesn't involve the right resources for the applications, for mobile applications, for the websites itself. They still want to do new things with all the data.
Yeah, no. I was talking about you though. If you have ideas,
I want to find a small hole to put my ideas there, but most of the time it's not easy.
Well, so another saying I say to corporate teams are people stuck, right? Because you have to go where you're loved.
Yeah.
Right? So if this gentleman you're working with, the people you're working with, they hate you, there's somebody usually in the organization, it's maybe a middle tier manager or somebody who it feels like you. It may take you 6 months, you just need to find them. search around, talk, oh no, that guy hates me too, that guy hates me. Oh, this guy, actually, I look at his desk and I see the book. Okay. Let me go talk to him really quick. I have an idea. I think this is how we can do it. Maybe we'll partner up.
Start a meetup.
Start really small.
Start a happy hour. Set it on inner mail or whatever, and you just say happy hour for internal innovators.
Yep. And you'll get 3 people at the first one. But it's okay, it's your first 3. Your silo is now 3. Because now he's worse off than you, he doesn't even have a silo. So you need to build the first piece, right?
Right.
But there's
go find the like-minded people.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, and you may have to go to a new company. It's hard, yeah, right, to go to a new company, but maybe it's an option, right? Yeah, your life is just the same way.
No, it's always an option. It's always the best option. Because if you want to climb up yourself, the best way is to...
That's true everywhere, I think, actually.
Yeah. It's like when you're sailing, but you can't go straight. You gotta take it this way so you come to a new place.
You have to tack into the wind. You have to totally come about downwind.
Yeah, you gotta walk with the wind and with the market.
Anybody else?
I really like the concept of the validation board. Can you talk? I understand it, maybe for the others that don't understand it, we can talk about it. But also, if there are other things that maybe I don't know about that you might know, like that. I know that there's I think there's launchbox.com or something where it's like
there's launchrock.com, which is basically helps you build one-page website that gathers email addresses based upon the value proposition that you put on there. They're pivoting to go and do crowdfunding stuff. The validation board that Gil is talking about is basically a way to document going through your experiment. We have one too. It's on our website. Moves the needle. It's a little bit different. Ashmora has a bunch of tools. Lean Canvas, able to track your assumptions. We'll continue to build tools, and we have some on our website. There's Trevor's built a new product called Quick MVP. So this is a way again to build a one-page landing site and then do Google Words to test traffic against it and see if people. So there's like this is a type of experiment that I didn't talk about. It's basically the landing page experiment where you're putting up a one-page website and putting all your positioning on there, and you drive traffic to it. You see if anybody converts whatever your call to action is. My favorite story of that actually is a company called AppFog. Have you heard of AppFog? Basically, they do cloud services for people that are programming in the PHP language. So there was an existing product out there called Heroku, which was cloud services for Ruby on Rails, right? Very popular. So this guy, Lucas Carlson, he's all like, yeah, I love, we need, he was on Hacker News, and he's like, we need PHP for people we need cloud services for people programming PHP. So he's like, I'm going to do this project. A bunch of chatter on Hacker News about this. So he goes, I'm going to do this. So he's about to start building. He's going to build this big platform, and his wife's, it's late. Come to bed. Late Friday night. You work on it over the weekend. So he goes and builds a one-page website. Heroku for PHP. Cloud services for people programming PHP. Takes that URL, puts it on Hacker News, goes to bed. Wakes up the next morning, 800 people signed up. He's all like, now I got something. I'm going to build this rock-solid platform. I'm going to crush this. This is going to be my startup. It's going to be awesome. Starts coding. Week goes by, 2 weeks go by, coding. Yeah, rock-solid platform. It's going to have all the features of Heroku. It's going to be awesome. 4 weeks go by. He's got 4,000 people signed up. And he's all like, I keep going down this path. It's going to take me 6 months to finish this product. What's going to happen to my 4,000 users? They're going to hate me. I've already told them I've got it. I don't have anything for them. 4 weeks have gone by. I'm going to lose this. So he has this sort of stroke of genius. He wants to turn those 4,000 people into 40 people. Exact opposite of the way an entrepreneur thinks. I don't want 4,000. I want 40. I can build something that I can get 40 people into. So how does he get it? How does he winnow it down to 40 people? He does this marketing survey. This is not best practices marketing survey. It's not 9 questions with radio boxes and check boxes you can get through in 9 seconds. 9 pages of survey. Open-ended questions. You know, why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the meaning of life? What's your favorite color? Anything to get them not to fill out the survey. It took an hour to fill out the survey. Do not fill out the survey unless you have this pain so much you're willing to fill out the survey. Sends a survey out there. 2,000 people filled out that survey. So he actually read every one of them, did some data mining on it, and he figured out there were 3 features that he could build. He thinks he could get traction on 3 features. Ironically, even though he was in his own market segment, it was not the same 3 features that he would have built. And so he did that, built this front end, 3 features, back end, just for those 3 features, launched it, and he just rocket shipped. Exponential growth, raised $10 million, actually just had an exit like 6 months ago, 8 months ago. And I was telling the story at my meetup. I do a coffee meetup in San Diego. I was telling the story, and there's a couple PHP developers there, a couple friends. They're like, I remember that. And I was like, oh, is the product cool? No, it sucks. Did you use it? Yeah, I used it. It's the only thing available, right? So that's the concept of the minimum viable product. It's only crappy. It only can be crappy if it's viable. It works enough to solve a real problem, right? So the viable is as important as minimum. And also, just like I was telling earlier, that's moving the knowns. That's moving from the unknown to the known, right? Moving from searching, he doesn't have to search for the product anymore. Now he knows. Now it's time to execute. Now he knows which customers to listen to. He knows which bugs to fix. It's the ones they're complaining about, right? So now he moves into execution mode, building the product that these people are laboriously using because it kind of sucks, but it solves the problem. Now he can fix it. Now he builds a great product. That's what product market fits. Product pulls the market out of you because you have the right market segment that's using your product in the way that you envision solving a real problem. The landing page, MVP. Anybody else? Rafa's over there going, thank God he told some different stories than earlier today. All right, well, I'm going to hang around a bit if people want to ask me questions directly, or Aaron or Rick or Ben too. So thanks for coming out.